property.
What are the key stages of the buying process? Well, first of all, I would say preparation. Preparation. Who's going to buy the property? Who's got the money? Do you need finance? Is the property going to be purchased by a company? And what are you going to do with the property? Are you going to come and live in the property full time, or is it going to be a holiday home? So those are the considerations to get to the bottom of. And once you've digested and consider those and have a positive response to them, then you can proceed accordingly. So, for example, if you're planning to move to Spain, I would say buy the property in your own name. If you've got money in a company, for example, in the UK or America, and you want to buy a property in Spain to rent out, then it may be, and it's going to cost you a lot of money in tax to get the property, to get the purchase proceeds out of the company. Then you could incorporate a Spanish company and lend the money from the US or UK company to the Spanish company. So a corporate structure might be appropriate. If mum and dad are going to buy a holiday home, then, and they've got children over the age of 18, potentially they could buy the property in Spain with the children. So the children have the legal title and the parents have a life interest. So those are kind of various Spanish property options which clients should consider before they even come to Spain. You've made the decision to buy. Who's going to buy? Okay, that's kind of preparation. Do you need finance? If you need finance, then contact a mortgage broker. That mortgage broker will charge you to basically consider your financial affairs and advise you how much you could borrow. It's crucial to do that if you need finance, so that when you come to Spain, you know from the mortgage broker exactly how much you're allowed to borrow and what kind of property price you could seek to make an offer on. So that is all about the preparation. Let's go on to the juicy part. And I found a property. What next? If you've done everything beforehand, you've put the power of attorney in place, and let's say Mr. and Mrs. Jones are going to buy in Spain. They put the power of attorney in place. We've got the NI numbers, and we open the bank account for them. As soon as they find a property and they've negotiated the price, then it's time to sign a contract. But obviously, the negotiating the price, I'd always suggest you speak closely and carefully with the agent about the price, and I'd be asking, how long has the property been on the market for? Have they accepted or rejected any offers, and why are they selling? So find out a bit more about why the sellers are selling. Once you've got that information, you're on the ground, you're visiting other properties, visit various properties in the area. Don't just go for the first one you find, and then agree with the agent what potentially the sellers could accept. Submit the offer, agree any subject tos. So for example, do you want the furniture? Do you want it to be subject to a survey? Do you want to put a swimming pool in, because there isn't one there now? So do we need an architect to go in to check that it's all okay? Have there been extensions? In that case, if there have been extensions, we want a certificate from the town hall confirming there's no breaches of planning. So just before you sign that reservation contract and pay any monies over, once you've negotiated the purchase price, it's important to speak to a lawyer. That lawyer that you've already instructed and been speaking to about ownership options. You cover off another point to consider is, do you want to rent it out for holiday rentals? Holiday rentals is becoming a little bit more complicated in Spain now. So you've got to just, if you want to rent it out to make it wash its face and cover some costs, then you've got to discuss that with the agent. And then the lawyer can check to see whether or not rentals would be allowed. You might not actually have that answer at the point of signing the reservation contract, but it's something that it's a subject to. If a development has allowed holiday rentals, for example, then it's likely that they will continue to allow holiday rentals. But that is becoming more of an issue in Spain. So you've negotiated the purchase price, you know who's going to buy, the contract's been agreed, you've put in your subject tos, you sign on the dotted line, and typically you'll pay anywhere between 6,000 and 20,000 euros as a reservation fee. And that property will come off the market And in that reservation contract, we will set out the date when you sign the reservation contract, the date when you will exchange contracts and pay the balance of 10%, and the date when you will complete the property purchase. So it's very important that all your financial ducks are in a row to achieve those dates. Because if you, for whatever reason, couldn't hit any of those deadlines and the seller didn't allow you to extend and you've paid some monies over, then you could lose those money. So for example, we do have clients saying, I'm selling my property in my home country. Okay, my best advice to you is sell the property first and then come looking. Because if you put monies down and can't complete on the contract, then you could lose any monies you paid over. So all completions of Spanish property purchases happens before a notary. A notary is basically a qualified lawyer who's continued to study, passed a state exam, and has been appointed a notary in the local town. And they will oversee the transaction. They won't be acting for you or the seller, they will be acting for both parties. But they just want to get the deal done, and they take instructions from both the buyer's lawyers and the seller's lawyers. So in effect, when we get to completion, we'd say, this is the property, this is the price agreed, this is how much has been paid already. And for example, it might have a mortgage on it. So a payment will be taken out of the sales proceeds to settle the mortgage. If there's any other debts on there, that will come off as well. The notary will apply for a land search a few days before completion to ensure that there are no debts or no new charges on the property before completion. So the buying process and the title to the property is protected during the preceding days to completion and afterwards. So in effect, that land search from the land registry, which the notary applies for, is attached to the deed. And if, for example, the seller had a debt with, for example, Social Security in Spain, or they hadn't paid a tax bill, a debt might accrue on the property. And it's very important that, we always insert in property purchases that the property is purchased without any debts. And the notary will confirm that. So the notary actually provides a very important plays a very important part in this. And of course, what happens is we'll go to the notary, we've agreed the final cost. Usually it's by check. So we'll take a check for the balance of the sales proceeds due to the seller. And it's a happy time in that a check is exchanged for keys. And then after we've completion, so the lawyer for the buyer and the seller will sign on the dotted line, or the buyers and sellers will come and they'll sign themselves. Once that has been signed, the property is the buyer's from that date, from the date of completion, and the notary will notify the land registry and the town hall that completion has happened. And then it will be up to the buyer or their representative to collect the deed, pay the notary fees, pay the transfer tax or the stamp duty if it's a brand new property, and then register the property in their names, and then pay the land registry fees once the registration has been completed. A typical legal time frame for buying a property would be anywhere between 6 and 12 weeks. Typically, the transactions are quicker when there isn't a mortgage involved, and it's kind of a straightforward property, like, two-bed apartment on the coast, and it's got all of its licenses and documents in place. If you're buying a larger property which requires a survey, for example, or there's some planning issues, then that will take longer. If you're buying a property in the countryside, then we always recommend that it's subject to, for example, the seller obtaining from the town hall a certificate confirming there's no breaches of planning permission. And when you get town halls involved, then the process can be drawn out a bit more. The same happens with banks if you've got a bank involved and you require a mortgage. If you are going to apply for a mortgage, it's very important that you've got your mortgage broker on side. As soon as you've agreed the property purchase, you instruct them to carry out the valuation, so that the valuer is out almost the day after you've agreed the purchase price, so that they're valuing the property and reverting to you and saying, yeah, that value matches up with the property price. We're going to give you X percentage of that. and you're good to go. Some common mistakes that buyers make when they come out to Spain and buy a property is a lot of people come out and say, I'm going to go on a recce. I'm going to go on a recce to look at properties just to kind of get a feel for the property market and see what properties are like, talk to some agents and take it from there. And they might not, any property purchase in the future might be subject to them selling their property in their home country. And what I found actually recently, we had an American client fall in love with the property, but hasn't sold their property yet, and so they can't proceed. But they've come out and at least got a good feel for the local market. I've got a British client at the moment who is in the process of selling his property in the UK. He hopes that he'll be able to complete the sale of that property within 6 months. But what we have agreed with the seller, and it's kind of exceptional, and each seller is different. We've agreed that if the buyer hasn't completed the sale of his home property within 6 months of the reservation contract, that the seller gives him a further 6 months. So in effect, the buyer has bought himself 12 months to sell his property, but he's putting himself under pressure there. So he's got to pay 10% as part of the contract. And if he doesn't fulfill his side of the contract, i.e. he can't complete within a maximum period of 12 months, then he could lose his deposit.